Hi, very good morning. I am Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. All my video lectures are for mainly for educative purpose. They are very useful to fourth year students during oral exam as well as theory exam. And some of the topic will be also useful to first year, second year and third year student also. Today we are going to discuss regarding one of the very interesting topic which can be asked in your theory as well as in your oral and very important from point of view in your everyday practice. You will see lot of cases every day in and out, that is allergic rhinitis and little outline of rhinitis together. So rhinitis means rhina means nose and itis means inflammation. So it is inflammation of nose, we call that as rhinitis. And the most common cause of rhinitis is rhinovirus. So it is a viral infection which will produce rhinitis, most common. But today we'll be talking in detail regarding allergic rhinitis rather than infective rhinitis. So this will be non-infective rhinitis, we call as allergic rhinitis, or we also call that as hay fever. We'll be talking under all this heading as routine, like definition, etiology, pathophysiology, clinical features, investigations, differential diagnosis, treatment and complications. So very characteristic of allergic rhinitis is rhinorrhea. It is also called as rhinitis nervosa, also called seasonal rhinitis or perianal rhinitis, hay fever or even rose. These are all the different terms which can be utilized for allergic rhinitis. By definition, it is inflammation of nasal mucosa and sinus mucosa. And because of inflammation, it is associated with sneezing, swelling, increased mucus production, and nasal obstruction. This particular inflammation of nasal mucosa is caused by allergens. And when it is caused by allergen, we call that as allergic rhinitis. It is the most common atopic allergic reaction and very common as far as incidence is concerned. Almost 10 to 25% of population is affected by this particular, we call as allergic rhinitis. And in ENT, allergic rhinitis accounts for almost 50% of rhinitis cases and most commonly seen in young children and adolescents. It is also known as hay fever. As routine, we have said that it is the inflammation of nasal mucosa due to allergen, and it can be very simple classified into two big groups we call seasonal or intermittent. Now this particular intermittent or seasonal variety is due to pollen grains which can come from tree, grasses, weeds, etc. And perennial or chronic variety is mainly from indoor allergens like spores, mold spores, dust mites, animal, animal denders, etc. And little outline to the what we call as the pathophysiology. Allergens will increase the IgE production. That IgE will sensitize mast cells, and these mast cells, whenever the allergen comes in contact with these mast cells which are tagged with IgE, there will be release of histamine, and this histamine will produce proliferation of mucous gland, it will irritate trigeminal nerve, and there will be local inflammatory signs. Also, there will be release of chemical mediators like interleukins 4 and interleukins 13, etc., which will infiltrate into nasal mucosa, and it will give rise to nasal edema and congestion. During this process, release of histamine and inflammatory mediators, mast cell will undergo what we call the degranulation. Now, this allergic rhinitis is most commonly associated with, or we call, comorbid conditions. There are a lot of comorbid conditions like nasal polyp, sinusitis, asthma, obstructive sleep apnea disorders, upper respiratory infection, craniofacial abnormalities, atopic dermatitis, otitis media with effusion, etc. These are all comorbid associated condition along with allergic rhinitis. But the most common is asthma, allergic rhinoconjunctivitis, sinusitis, and otitis media. These are the most common associated comorbid conditions. You can classify classically into two big groups. We call seasonal or intermittent, and second, perennial or chronic. Other way of classifying is acute and chronic. Acute is usually secondary due to, means rhinitis can be classified. This is classification of allergic rhinitis. Allergic rhinitis can be classified into seasonal and perennial, while rhinitis can be classified into acute, which will be bacterial, viral, or occasionally maybe because of drugs, while chronic is usually allergic. And among allergic, you can divide into seasonal, which you can call that as a hay fever or intermittent variety, and perennial rhinitis or persistent or chronic rhinitis. So this is the way you try to classify rhinitis group. So intermittent variety is usually occurring in a person less than 4 days per week or less than 4 weeks. It is usually a mild variety. There is no impairment of daily activity like sports, etc. Person goes normal to work and schools, and there are usually no troublesome symptoms. While a persistent variety is usually labeled as moderate to severe, where person will have a disturbed sleep, impairment of daily activities like sports, etc. He will not be able to do his normal work. He will not be able to attend schools, etc. And there will be troublesome symptoms. This classification is done on the ground of ARIA guidelines, Allergic Rhinitis International Association guidelines. Now, in general, rhinitis can be classified into two big groups, infected and non-infected groups. Infected group you can divide into acute and chronic. Acute will be bacterial and viral. Chronic will be specific and non-specific. Non-specific is further classified. Chronic non-specific group can be classified into atrophic rhinitis, simple chronic rhinitis, hypertrophic rhinitis, rhinitis sicca, rhinitis caseosa, and granulomatous rhinitis. While non-infected can be classified into vasomotor and allergic. And allergic can be classified into two big groups. We are going to talk mainly regarding allergic rhinitis, that is seasonal and perennial. So rhinitis is mainly classified into infected and non-infectious. Infectious is bacterial and viral. Non-infectious can be allergic or can be non-allergic. Allergic can be seasonal, or you can label that as seasonal intermittent variety. And another is chronic, or we call perennial or persistent variety. And further you can divide into mild, moderate and severe. Acute, duration wise, acute, chronic, subacute, recurrent. There are other names given in a non-allergic is vasomotor rhinitis, infections associated with physical and chemical factors, drugs, food-induced rhinitis, NARS, aspirin sensitivity, rhinitis of pregnancy, atrophic rhinitis, etc. Infectious is also called as a non-allergic, and non-infectious is allergic or non-allergic. Non-allergic and non-infectious can be further depending upon the allergens and other factors, that is idiopathic, occupational, hormonal, irritants, etc. These are the groups which will be the factors which will be responsible for non-infectious and non-allergic groups. Even in gastrointestinal reflux, GERD. But by and large, we always use the two common classical words, that is seasonal or periodic or outdoor or intermittent. While perennial is given at any time, indoor or persistent, because there are indoor allergens in perennial and outdoor allergens in case of seasonal. So perennial plus seasonal exacerbation can be together, because perennial can be exposed to outdoor allergens and can get manifestation, and the person who is exposed to industrial allergens is called occupational. Severity wise, mild, moderate and severe variety we have already mentioned before. Duration wise, acute less than 7 days to 4 weeks, between 4 to 12 weeks is called subacute. Recurrent acute means more than 4 episodes of acute rhinitis syndrome per year. Chronic is more than 12 weeks. An acute exacerbation of chronic is sudden worsening of a chronic rhinitis with return to the baseline after treatment or after recovery. So etiology is mainly outdoor and indoor. Outdoor are usually from pollen grains, while indoors are mold spores, dust mites, animal danders, etc. We already mentioned before that almost 15 to 30% of the population is affected by allergic rhinitis. Very common between second and fourth decade. 20% will have a seasonal, 40% will have perennial, and 40% will have both. Indirectly, pure seasonal is only in 20%, while rest will have a perennial or perennial plus seasonal. Genetic factor counts a major role and will be precipitating factor or predisposing factors. And we already mentioned there will be indoor allergens which will give rise to chronic variety, mainly because of house dust mites, animal danders, cigarette smokes, hairspray, paints, molds, etc. While pollen grains will be usually affecting what we call as seasonal or intermittent group. So it is commonly associated with allergic rhinitis, with asthma and atopic dermatitis. That's why it is called atopic triad. Very, very common. Risk factors are strong family history and person who has got a chromosome 3 and 4 abnormalities. Male are more affected as compared to female. High socioeconomic status because of use of chemical materials for in the form of a spray, etc. Exposure to cigarette smoke in the first year of life. There are certain protective factors which gives a little more immunity, like breastfeeding, owning a pet at an early age, exposure to the farm animal in the first year of life. So person will get immunity to that. So this is some of the risk factors. There are other risk factors in the person like family history of atopy, male gender, high socioeconomic status, birth during pollen seasons, firstborn status, early introduction of formula and foods, early use of antibiotics, indoor allergens exposure, smoking, serum level if it is serum Ig level more than 100 before the age of 6 years, and presence of allergen specific IgE. These are some of the common factors which will be responsible for development of allergic rhinitis. Particularly exposure to aerobiological flora, that is house dust, dust mites, feathers, tobacco smoke, industrial chemicals, animal danders, etc. We already mentioned good number of associated conditions like asthma, allergic conjunctivitis and atopic dermatitis. But it can be also associated with urticaria, otitis media, upper respiratory tract infection, sinusitis, disturbances in sleep, taste and smell, nasal polyps, mouth breathing, snoring or person even gets obstructive sleep apnea, adenoid hypertrophy, and that can also lead to sleep apnea. The most common condition which is associated, we already mentioned before, allergic rhinoconjunctivitis, atopic dermatitis, drug allergy, urticaria and bronchial asthma. You can see the prevalence of the cases 10 to 40% across all age groups, and there is a big group 4 billions will be there in 2050. As far as pathophysiology is concerned, it is divided into two phases we call early phase and late phase. In early phase, allergen will lead to increase in IgE level, and that IgE within 5 to 15 minutes of exposure, mast cell will be sensitized, and this sensitized mast cells will result into degranulation, and that will release inflammatory mediators like histamine and leukotrienes, which will produce local inflammation, irritation of trigeminal nerve, and also inflammation of mucous glands. And within 4 to 6 hours of exposure, you will start getting a late phase where again mast cell will have a degranulation releasing interleukins 4 and 13. You will have a cell infiltration into nasal mucosa, and you will have a nasal edema and nasal congestion. So there are two phases. Early phase is a sensitization phase, and then you get a late phase or what we call the clinical allergic reaction, which is further divided into early phase and late phase. So initially these mast cells are sensitized by IgE, and then whenever second time when is exposed to those allergens, whether indoor or outdoors, you will have early phase and late phase. So this is allergen activation, mast cells getting activated, eosinophil, basophils and lymphocytes are all activated, and then whenever they are second time exposed, release of mediators like histamine and leukotrienes and others materials, while from eosinophil, basophil, etc. mediator release will go to plasma, and then swelling will occur and you will have a obstruction. Early phase you will have a sneezing and secretion, increased secretion, producing sneezing and rhinorrhea. And because of vasodilatation, congestion, and plasma exudation will lead to obstruction. So this will be in an early phase and late phase. What will happen? Same thing is explained here. That is mast cells, degranulation, release of mediators, etc. Again same early phase reaction and late phase reaction. In an early phase reaction, mast cell degranulation, histamine will give rise to sensory nerve stimulation, sneezing center, person will get sneezing, and there will be also stimulation of secretion centers which will stimulate the mucosal gland to increase secretion and will produce rhinorrhea. Blood vessel will undergo vasodilatation, producing congestion and exudation, and edema will give rise to symptoms of nasal blockage. IgE will sensitize the mast cells, and that sensitized mast cells on second time exposure to antigens, you get this early phase and late phase. There will be also sensitization of lymphocytes. Eosinophil, neutrophils, basophils and lymphocytes will release the inflammatory mediators and will produce nasal blockage, inflammatory mucosa, swelling, etc. and that we call as a late phase. So these are the things which are going on in allergic rhinitis. This is sensitization phase, and in a clinical disease phase or phase 2, that is phase 2, early and late. If we go to the clinical features, the most common symptoms which will start will be sneezing and rhinorrhea. So sneezing and rhinorrhea is the first common symptoms, and because of edema the person can also complain of anosmia or problem with smell. Rhinorrhea is running nose. Person will have even conjunctivitis, that is watery eye, and sneezing is the most common symptom. These are the four most common symptoms: watering eye, anosmia, running nose, and sneezing. And secondary to congestion, frequent sneezing, postnasal drip, and because of postnasal drip, cough, itchy eye, nose, roof of the mouth and throat will give you itchy feeling. Swollen blue colored skin under the eye, it is called allergic sinus, quite common. And we already mentioned because of edema of nasal mucosa, anosmia or anosmia, headache, facial pains, and person is irritable. And secondary to that inflammation, person can have earache because of conjunctivitis, allergic conjunctivitis, tears, or watery eyes, red eye, swollen eyes. Person will get fatigue because of chronic cough, drowsiness, and person can have malaise. Lot of symptoms. So sneezing, nasal itching, and because of this nasal itching, person constantly does this movement and he will have a nasal crease. Rhinorrhea, nasal congestion, postnasal drainage, smell disturbances, either may be parosmia or anosmia, headache, facial pains, and even ocular symptoms because of conjunctivitis, red eye, watery eye, etc. Now, if you want to differentiate allergic rhinitis from non-allergic, you will have to use certain criteria. So, symptoms suggestive of allergic rhinitis, two or more of following for more than 1 hour on most of the days, that is watery rhinorrhea, sneezing, and paroxysmal nasal obstruction, nasal pruritus, and conjunctivitis, with or without. Almost this fits with allergic rhinitis. And symptoms usually not associated with allergic rhinitis. Unilateral symptoms more likely to be non-allergic. Mucopurulent discharge, nasal obstruction without other symptoms, posterior rhinorrhea or postnasal drip, very common with thick mucus, and there is no anterior rhinorrhea, pain, epistaxis, and anosmia. Always think in terms of non-allergic rhinitis, more common. We already divided this into intermittent and persistent. We already mentioned all those findings. So there are clinical classification profile wise, symptom wise, intermittent and persistent, and clinical profile wise sneeze runner and blockers. In sneeze runner, the main symptoms are sneezing, rhinorrhea, and itchy nose and itchy eyes. While a blocker symptoms like nasal congestion, predominant symptoms in the form of nasal congestion, nasal blockage, and thick mucus can lead to postnasal drip and breathlessness. This will be blockers variety, and this will be sneeze runner. We already mentioned all these symptoms: rhinorrhea, itchy eyes, throats, sneezing, congestion, postnasal drip. Ear is often distressing. Person can have earache, stuffy nose, coughing, sore throat, dark circle under the eyes, puffiness under the eyes, fatigue, irritability, headache, memory problem, and even it can affect your thinking problem parts. And because of constant rubbing of nose, you can have a classical allergic salute sign. It is called salute sign. You can see clear that because of this particular movements, because of itchy nose. High arch palate is also quite common. This is typical that salute sign. You can see periorbital edema and periorbital bluish color, quite common. Transverse crease over the tip of the nose and lower eyelids. This. It is called allergic sinus and allergic salute. Two names are given. Salute is over the nasal crease and allergic sinus is around the eyeball, along the eyelids. Good number of times they will also have a high arch palate. So allergic sinus, and there is a name given to those lines called Denny Morgan lines. That is a crease over the lower eyelids radiating outwards from the inner canthus caused by spasm in the muscles, and that is given a name, Denny Morgan lines. So rhinorrhea is the most common symptom: sneezing, nasal pruritus or itchy nose, and allergic conjunctivitis. This four comes topmost on the list. Also pruritus, eye, postnasal drip, non-productive cough will be very common in chronic perennial type of variety or chronic rhinitis, and stuffy nose. You can see around the eye, and rhinorrhea, very typical sneeze. Allergic salute in the form of a what we call as a crease over the nose, ischiation tube dysfunction, chronic sinusitis, and allergic sinus. These are typical allergic sinus. You can see this. And you can have even the deformities of the nasal part. Very typical deformities. So rhinorrhea, sneezing, quite common. Sneezing is due to histamine-induced activation of trigeminal nerve, while rhinorrhea is because of histamine stimulating mucus gland, and other inflammatory cytokines. So there is increased secretions. There will be nasal congestion because of the interleukin 4 and 13, and that will give rise to chronic symptoms. Post-nasal drip is quite common, and that will give rise to a typical repeated irritation will give rise to cobblestone appearance of the posterior pharyngeal wall. This is typical cobblestone appearance of posterior pharyngeal wall. You can see this cobblestone appearance. And because of a constant irritation and post-nasal drip, person will have a chronic cough to clear the throat. Will have a constant coughing reflex. And that is one of the cause of what we even sometime utter a word, chronic cough or nocturnal cough. The cough can be non-productive due to irritation of postnasal drip. Allergic conjunctivitis will produce red eye, and there will be irritation, itchy. Histamine and other inflammatory mediators will cause vasodilatation and watering and tears, and there will be edema of the eyelids. Plus, there will be what we call as crease below the lower eyelid. So nasal pruritus will produce itchy nose, and this is because of inflammatory mediators released from mast cells, mainly histamine. And pruritus eye is again irritation from allergens releasing histamine from mast cells. So there will be allergic salute and allergic signer. Allergic salute is because of upward wiping and rubbing of the nose will give rise to transverse line or a crease on the nose, and that is given a name allergic salute. And there may be change in the color, hypopigmented or hyperpigmented. While allergic sinus are dark circle underneath the eye, and it is caused by congestion of a small blood vessel under the eyelids, which darkens appearance. And because of that, you can see this. These are called liners, allergic sinus. So that is very peculiar. And you might have a line starting from inner canthus outwards. Because of histamine-induced irritation, itchy throat, nose and sore throats, ischiation tube will be blocked, and that will give rise to what we call as inflammation and congestion of a nasal canal may spread to the ischiation tube. Fluid within the ischiation tube will also block that, and person will have a constant popping noises or sounds in the ear, we call tinnitus. Because of this particular, person will have a generalized symptoms like fatigue, headache, earache, quite common. In a chronic nasal congestion, there's a big list of symptoms which can be there, and on examination finding, there may be dry, irritated or sore throat. Snoring will be quite common. Nasal polyp will be seen on examination. Pain around the eye, mouth breathing, orthodontic disturbances. Because of that constant mouth breathing, you will have now disturbances of dental or teeth, and even you can have a facial deformities, frontal headache, sinusitis, chronic cough, otitis media, and even person will have what we call as a conductive deafness, altered smell in the form of anosmia or parosmia, even taste sensation may be altered, sleep disturbances with or without daytime fatigue, person can have a exacerbation of asthma, person will be irritable, will complain of fatigue, difficulty in concentration, decreased appetite, weakness, uneasiness, etc. Lot of symptoms in a chronic person. So asthma, sinusitis, nasal polyp, otitis media, and URTI, upper respiratory tract infections, are very common in person who are untreated for allergic rhinitis. This is a classification of allergic rhinitis symptoms: paroxysmal sneezing and rhinorrhea, What happens in severe, most severe? What are the different symptoms? What will happen because of nasal blockage? So those things are mentioned. So depending upon the severity, the symptoms of nasal blockage will be more. You can see here paroxysmal sneezing, rhinorrhea, nasal blockage, and trouble during daily life. Depending upon the symptoms, you put them into severe to a mild variety. At your leisure time, you can go through. As far as investigation is concerned, clinical diagnosis is most important. Identifying the level of IgE, allergen specific IgE, is very important. And another thing what can be done is an allergic skin test. This allergic skin test is usually contraindicated during pregnancy, uncontrolled asthma, and cardiovascular disorders. Also, before doing that test, you must stop tricyclic antidepressant, NGE monoclonal antibodies, and H2 receptor antagonist. So history becomes most important, examination for nasal polyp, and then you can go for skin test. As far as a blood examination is concerned, level of IgE and IgG level. You can go for trigger test, but it is risky. It should be done under a close supervision. X-ray chest is mainly to find out the amount of respiratory involvement. Sputum examination for increased number of eosinophils and Charcot-Leyden crystals. And in a blood, there will be increased level of eosinophil, and you can count even absolute eosinophil count. And to find out the amount of associated involvement of the lung, like bronchial asthma, you can go for pulmonary function test. As far as history diagnosis is concerned, very important, we have told you, sneezing, rhinorrhea, nasal itching, nasal obstruction, hyposmia are very common symptoms. And strong family history, personal atopic history, etc. is again in favor of allergic rhinitis. In ENT examination, you look for allergic stigmata like allergic sinus, allergic salute, nasal crease, adenoid face. This is a typical adenoid face. Typical adenoid face. You can see that this is allergic sinus, and there will be a nasal crease also. So that is called allergic salute and nasal crease. So do look for that. And then you can go for eosinophil staining in nasal secretions, IgE antibody measurements, allergic specific IgE antibody measurements, nasal mucosa provocative test, rhinoscopy, and then go for X-ray examination. So blood eosinophil count in a nasal secretion becomes a very useful tool. So if there is an increased number of eosinophil and presence of Charcot-Leyden crystal goes in favor of allergic manifestation. Total serum IgE level and specific IgE level can be done. Skin test called prick test or intradermal test can be done. And there are serum specific IgE, different names are given, RAST, MAST, FAST and CAP. These are what we call the skin test you can go for. So allergic skin test, and if it is positive, more in favor of more than 2 millimeter in children under the 5 years age and more than 3 millimeter in older children and adults. And you look for will after 15 minutes of injections. So that will be positive test. If you see this redness and swelling, it will be positive test. RAST is radio allergo sorbent test. FAST is fluoro allergo sorbent test. PRIST is paper immunoallergo sorbent test, etc. So these are the words which are commonly utilized during those tests. You can go for paranasal sinus X-ray, CT for paranasal sinuses, nasal endoscopy under local or GA, and also evaluate for asthma by means of PFT and other tests. Now, as far as differential diagnosis is concerned, you will have to differentiate hay from common cold. In hay, there will be running nose with a thin watery discharge. There will be no fever. While in case of a common cold, runny nose with watery to thick yellow discharge, low grade fever. Onset will be after exposure to allergens, while this will be 1 to 3 days after exposure to cold virus, particularly we call as a rhinovirus. Duration of this will be as long as he is exposed to allergens. So by and large it is a longer duration. Well, this will be usually we say 5 to 7 days. So duration for cold is 3 to 14 days. By and large we say 5 to 7 days. While allergy will be for days and months. This will be during any time but more common during winter, but can be at any time of the year. This can be also any time of the year but mainly seasonal. So post monsoon this will be more common. Onset of the symptom is after exposure to virus. Well, this is immediately after exposure to allergen within few minutes to hours. Coughing is more common, while in allergic it is less common. Sneezing is often in both. Headache is sometime in case of a cold, while it is less common in case of an allergy. Aches, that is we call body aches, while headache may be there in a case of an allergic variety. Headache, earache will be quite common. Fatigue symptom will be sometime in both. Fever is very common in cold, while in allergic it is never. Itchy and watery eyes is occasionally in case of a cold, but it is almost always there in case of an allergic. Sore throat is more common with cold, while it is occasional in case of allergic, particularly in a chronic allergic group. Running nose and stuffy nose is common in both. So this will be the way you try to differentiate. So again, you differentiate between cold and influenza. At your leisure time you can go through, because in influenza there will be always fever, headache will be very common, myalgia will be severe and will last for longer period. Fatigue is more common, nasal congestion is common, sneezing is not so common, but it is common in cold, sore throat is common in both, and influenza can be severe variety while cold is usually a mild variety. This is the difference between rhinosinusitis, allergy and common cold. At your leisure time you can go through, have a pause and go through. This is the difference between COVID-19, influenza and cold. Here there is no difference between allergy, but this is another common condition you will face in your everyday practice. In COVID, you will have a dry cough and fever more common with COVID and influenza, while it is not common in case of a cold. Stuffy nose, sore throat is more common with cold, less common with COVID, and you can get in case of influenza. Stuffy nose and sore throat may be seen, but it is very common, very common and severe in case of a cold. Headache will be more common with influenza, and in case of body ache will be there in case of a cold. Sneezing will be very common with cold rather than influenza and COVID. Exhaustion will be more common with influenza being a viral infection, quite common. And diarrhea may be occasionally present in case of influenza. So minus is rare, 1 is occasional, 2 is sometime and 3 is frequent. This is very frequent. So this is the difference between the three groups. This is again a difference between allergic and flu. As far as management is concerned, we are mentioning regarding allergic, identify and avoid triggers. Saline rinse helps a lot to clear out the pollen grains and allergens. Nasal glucocorticoids to improve the symptoms and support the diagnosis, and it is a first line of treatment. You can use antihistaminic which will block the histamine and then will release the nasal congestion, etc. Leukotriene receptor antagonist can be utilized. So these are the first line of treatment. So medical management, avoid allergens, medications. You can go for immunotherapy and education. Very, very important. So avoiding exposure to allergens and protection from exposure to pollen grains and other indoor allergens becomes a prime factor. Very, very rarely you might require a surgical intervention. So avoid allergens, minimize the symptoms, decrease inflammation, avoid comorbidities, and maximize the compliance so that person can have a good quality of life. That should be the prime goal for allergic rhinitis. So environmental control is first. Then you go for the drug where antihistaminic, decongestant, mast cell stabilizers, corticosteroids, and leukotriene antagonist is a pharmacotherapy. And you can go for immunotherapy in a person who has got chronic and recurrent episodes. And surgical therapy is rarely required, particularly in the person with a severe deviated nasal septum or person who has got a nasal polyps which produces severe obstructions. So avoidance of allergens, immunotherapy and pharmacotherapy stands topmost on the list. And among pharmacotherapy, decongestant, intranasal steroids, spray, antihistaminics and anti-leukotrienes becomes the prime pharmacotherapy. So Allergic Rhinitis International Association. Diagnosis of allergic rhinitis by different symptoms, intermittent symptoms, persistent symptoms. Depending upon the type, you can go for pharmacotherapy and very, very rarely you might require a surgical intervention. Depending upon the symptoms, you can have use of histamine, nasal steroids in the form of spray. You can go for leukotriene inhibitors. You can go for histamine blockers. We call antihistaminic, decongestants, etc. So for mild, moderate and severe, what you can go for, which we have already, this is an enlarged picture. At your leisure time, you can go through. So allergic avoidance, histamines, intranasal corticosteroids, corticosteroid with antihistaminic nasal spray, leukotriene receptor antagonist, and last is immunotherapy and surgical intervention. So allergic avoidance is common for all stages, mild, moderate and severe. Intranasal decongestants is also common for all. Oral and local H2 receptor antagonist are, or ideally non-sedative H1 blockers should be utilized. So that will be common for all. While local steroids is more commonly utilized in moderate to severe variety, and then very rarely you require immunotherapy in severe groups and mild persistent groups, and surgical therapy is rarely required if a person has got nasal polyp, severe deviated nasal septum, etc. So all those we have already mentioned. Oral agents mainly in the form of antihistaminic, decongestants, combination and leukotriene receptor antagonist. And among topical agents, anticholinergic, antihistaminic, glucocorticoids, cromolyn, sodium, decongestant, etc. can be utilized. And in a chronic persistent group, immunotherapy can be used. These are the first line of treatment, second line, third line, fourth, fifth, and sixth line. What we call for nasal obstructive symptoms, rhinorrhea, and chronic persistent asthma. So depending upon that, you can go for. At your leisure time, you can go through. These are the adverse effect of the old generation antihistaminic. Can give rise to sedation, urinary retention, dry mouth, cardiac problems, and weight gains. Quite common. Of this, sedation and urinary retention were more troublesome and dry mouth. Weight gain can be there in some of the old generation antihistaminics. Bilastine is a new non-sedative antihistaminic which has got certain advantages like long duration of action, no sedation, no psychomotor impairment, no anticholinergic activity, cardiac safety, no drug interaction, and rapid onset of action. Hence, it is one of the drug of choice for allergic rhinitis. These are all the different preparation available in market and possible side effects of oral antihistaminic, intranasal corticosteroids, and leukotrienes inhibitors. At your leisure time, you can go through. Surgical treatment mainly done for submucosal turbinectomy, septoplasty, and sinus surgery. These are not commonly required, but may be required in a person who has got a severe nasal blockage. As far as complication is concerned, the most common, it is comorbid with allergic asthma, chronic otitis media, hearing disturbances, chronic nasal obstruction, sinusitis, orthodontic malocclusion, quite common, recurrent otitis media, hoarseness of voice, loss of smell, loss of hearing, high arch palate, dental malocclusion, etc. And another which are not so serious but they are also troublesome like sleep disturbances, loss of appetite, general weakness, fatigue, mood disorders, decreased contraction, difficulty in learning, etc. This should be decreased concentration rather than contraction. So because of chronic effects, social inconvenience, sleep disturbances, learning difficulties, impairment in a maxillary growth, dental problem, chronic infection of nose and sinusitis, conjunctivitis, asthma, rhinosinusitis, otitis media, etc. are chronic complications. So we already mentioned all this previously also. That is asthma, allergic conjunctivitis, atopic dermatitis, urticaria, recurrent UTI, URTI, sinusitis, otitis media, sleep and taste and smell disturbances, nasal polyp, mouth breathing, OSA, obstructive sleep apnea, snoring, adenoid face, adenoid hypertrophy, malocclusion of dental teeth, etc. Sleep apnea, all these are chronic complications. There are some home remedies which can be tried like dark green leafy vegetables, deep yellow and orange vegetables, etc. can be tried. They are beneficial. And there are other foods also which helps like ginger, then few cloves and cinnamon. You can boil them and you can have 1 cup which can increase the immunity against those allergens. You can try that with little amount of honey and lemon juice. So this helps, but these are not cure for allergic rhinitis. So at the end of this lecture, I thank you all for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable and I appreciate that for spending some of the time with me. This is the most common condition you will see in your everyday practice. Don't misdiagnose allergic rhinitis as viral infection. If there is fever, suspect viral infection. And then you can differentiate between two big groups, COVID-19 and what we call as an influenza. So do keep this thing in mind. If you like this lecture, please press button like. You can share with your friends. And if you got any particular comment, you can put in a comment. So see you in next lecture.